Forget the features, start with the goals. In this video, we're going to be talking a lot about loyalty and how we can create maximum value for our users at the earliest opportunities. In the previous videos, we've talked about the importance of user research that have hopefully throughout the course and throughout your professional work day, hopefully you'll be having all of these conversations with users, better empathy and better understanding of their world. And so what we're going to be doing is focusing specifically on the goals and needs of these users and how we can provide the best valuable experience that they have had simply by understanding their world better and prioritizing that over anything else. So let's get started. I need to tell you the story around a recent redesign that's happened on the usertesting.com website. Now, this website is very popular, especially in the tech industry. You can see some key blue chip companies down there, Apple logo, you've got the Airbnb logo, Facebook's logo, they're all there. It's a big platform. And for usability testing, it's one of the best because it's just got really good quality users who are taking part and you get great value for money. Now, it's just a brief kind of case study here around a recent redesign that they've done. And when you think about what they're trying to get people to do, obviously it's twofold. One, they want people to sign up and become a tester. But then you can also see here that they're trying to get people to buy their product. They're getting people to sign up and test their websites, their mobile apps and prototypes. And you can see here just on the page here, there's quite a lot going on. It's quite busy. There's a carousel here, so that's just a screenshot here I've taken where basically there's images flying through on the sort of slide reel here. It's quite a jumbled page, messy interface, and also conflicting call to actions. You know, you've got a blue button which is for signing up, green for getting paid to test, but then it's a very similar button which is watching a demo and pricing and sign up. So there's kind of four big call to actions there, maybe a bit hard to kind of read the text. And so by trying to think about the goals of their users, they were then able to kind of feed that into their new design that they did, which is the more recent one that you'll find on their current website. And here you can see less conflicting call to actions, and they actually dropped the word count by 25%. They've simplified the design. It's definitely a lot easier on the eyes, and there's just clearer call to actions that they're actually really driving people now to actually purchase from them rather than just sign up and get paid to test. And you can see that link there. Although it is there on the menu, it's certainly not as prominent. And so, yes, whilst we can have a big discussion around, designs and, what's trendy at the moment, all I'm trying to say here is that when you really understand your users and what they want to do, you can then prioritize that. And you can just see here that there's really, really clear call to actions around seeing a demo, watching the video, but also requesting a trial, which is kind of the main drive there. Okay, so this kind of launches us into this discussion around how do we provide maximum value for our users? And it all has to start with understanding the goals of the users that they have up front. And when I'm trying to communicate the importance of goals, try and think of it as in the main motorway, the freeway or the autobahn or whatever you want to call it, the main motorway of our platforms. So when we think about, we'll take Google as an example, okay? The majority of the traffic who come to Google, they all fly down this road. They all soar down doing their searches, okay? And so when you think about the Google page, just as in its pure simplicity, they're just simply typing in a couple of words and, they're looking for their search results. So the service stations are over where I am. We call them Apple Greens. Apple Greens are a really nice sort of service station. You can get a coffee, you get some breakfast, but I'm not doing that all the time. And it's only really on long trips that I'll go and take those service stations. So when you think about your software, whether you're building a website, whether you own a shop, whether you're building SaaS software or anything, you need to understand from your personas what their goals are and also what the majority of users are doing. And so we're going to just talk about traffic, and we're going to, in later videos, talk about how we better understand their goals. But I just wanted to make that distinction between sort of the majority of the time and then sometimes. And there's a really kind of good questions here that there's tons that we can have. When you're thinking about your software Sometimes it's not as simple as, Gmail. Sometimes it's not as simple as, just searching for stuff online. And so you've got to ask yourself, whether you're selling something, whether you want signups, whether you just want form completions, or any goal that you might want to have. You might want to have. Ask yourself, what is the primary purpose of this page? What's the one thing that we want our users to do? And also, how are we catering for the secondary service stations? The bits where you need to stop the car and get a leg stretch. And then the final clench question is, does the page purpose align with the user's goals? And you might say to me, Jonah, that's great, but what about when we need to kind of cater for two people and they're just as important and we can't be showing favoritism? And I guess the simple answer is that you've got to try and not kind of water down the experience by making it a bit like a Frankenstein thing, where just everything's there. You can't do that. You have to be democratic in that sense where, democracy is by the majority, right? And so if there's 80% of people doing this, well, then we need to cater for that. So that's kind of good questions to ask yourself when finding goals. And how do we kind of get through this? So start off with the assumptions. If you don't have the user research to hand, well, start off with the assumptions. I think that users are going to find value from this thing. I think this is the goal of the user. And when we think about creating the MVP, the minimal viable product, it always has to start with assumptions. And it's only until we do our research, qualitative and quantitative, when we've done our surveys, when we've done our interviews, only then can we really understand what the goals are. And then there's that constant loop of validation, where you build the experience and say, well, you asked for this and data showed this and benchmarking showed this, and this is the last point here I'm trying to point up here, is validation. I've got another point here as well. Don't rely on one data source. Data sources can be tricky, but unless you triangulate, and unless you bring your 2 or 3 or 4 data sources together, you're just going to maybe have slight kind of bit of bias in there maybe as well. So don't just take users at their word, when they say, oh yeah, well, I will log into my email only 2 times a day. Sometimes you just got to combine that with maybe more behavioral analysis, looking at analytics and things like that. So it's always that element of validation and testing that. And yeah, I guess that's an excellent way that we can kind of introduce this second module here where we're looking at adding value to the user experience. And I'm just giving you the clear steps and the clear questions to ask about what are the goals of the user and what are they trying to do and how can we prioritize that in the experience.